If we have to say, it is the culmination of the Vedic knowledge, the Upanishads. Siddhanta, the established conclusions, the right conclusions, not the conclusions that we make through our mind. And the Siddhanta, that the doctrines, Gocharam, that which is within the range of perception or cognition. Tamaha, if you look at Tamaha, Tamaha Gocharam, if we look at Tamaha, it means even darkness, the ignorance. Due to ignorance of the mind, that which thinks that it has perceived the knowledge, do not write in spirit, agocharam, it goes beyond perception. And also we need to comprehend in many ways. And also it means that which is verily unperceivable by the mind, not perceivable by the mind, not within the range of the senses and intellect by itself. But with an inquiry, we can go beyond these perceptions. Govindam, that Govinda, the name of the divine, the Govinda, and also the Swaguru of Shankara Bhagavad-pada, whom he was prostrating, which means the dilution of this ego, Paramanandam, the Guru who is the supreme bliss, the unconditional joy that is beyond a duality. So here the Guru, the true Guru, the Guru who is embodied the truth, the one who has realized the self and reveals it to the disciple, Pranataha, bowed down with reverence and surrender. We talked in the youth Pariprashna, youth heart-to-heart questions yesterday about surrender, right? Ask me, who is doing that? I am. And this I we discussed. Aham, the self-effective consciousness now here, that is now being offered to the Guru. So, if we look at the paradox of the Parabrahma Tattva, which is knowable and unknowable, is what we need to understand. Sarva Vedanta, Siddhanta Gocharam, Tama Gocharam. This is a really profound phrase. It encapsulates the core mystery of that absolute truth, which is the non-dual self. Gocharam, Shankara Bhagavad-pada mentioned, the absolute truth is the goal and conclusion of all Vedanta. The great statements, Mahavakyas like Prajnanam Brahma, the Rigveda Mahavakya. The transcendental knowledge is that absolute truth. Not knowledge is absolute truth. It is not that knowledge is absolute truth. It is only knowledge that which is transcended is absolute truth. Aham Brahmasmi, Yajurveda Mahavakya, and I am that Brahma. Not I, this body and the mind's I, that which got integrated with that universal I. Tattvamasi, thou art that, you are that, is the Samaveda Mahavakya. Sarvam Khalvidam Brahma, Rayamatma Brahma. All this indeed is that absolute truth. This is what is the Gocharam. And yet it is also a Gocharam, beyond the senses, beyond this logic that we discuss now. Even that I discuss as an inquiry within me. Beyond the thought, beyond the language. The mind cannot reach it is what we need to understand. So that we transcend the mind through the inquiry, we transcend this mind towards the absolute truth. The mind cannot reach it, yet the mind arises from it is what we need to know. It is the seer of all, being a Gocharam, but never seen. And it is a pure awareness, the only thing that cannot be objectified. There is no more dhyana, and when the dhyana is transcended, you become that. In the dhyana, there is an object for the subject of you. It is still incomplete. So, this paradox is the heart of the Advaita Vedanta. This paradox is the heart of this Viveka Chudamani. You cannot see the self, but experience that you are the self. And he said, Govinda, the Guru, as the embodiment of the truth. Govindam Paramanandam Sat Gurum. Who is Govinda? Like the Krishna Paramatma, the Lord Krishna. But here, Govinda, the Sat Guru, the living embodiment of Jnana. when we say the Swaguru of Shankara Bhagavad as the Govinda Padacharya, he is not looking at a name of Govinda Padacharya being Swaguru there. He is not looking at his height, his weight or his color and everything. But Shankara Bhagavad is prostrating to his Swaguru, who is the living embodiment of the self-knowledge, the jnana. Paramanandam, not bliss of the mind or senses, that which are temporal. Today I am excited and being very happy. There is a need that you need to go back to home. There is a need that sometime in the night you need to go back to your room. But this is not the bliss of the mind or senses, but the unwavering joy of self-abidance all the time. And Satguru, Sat means the truth, which is the very existence. So the master of this truth. And the Guru is one who knows that truth, who is the embodied form of the truth, who is that Parabrahma, who reveals Parabrahma Tattva, the absolute truth, to the qualified student. It does not give just new knowledge, but removes ignorance like a mirror revealing the face. Pranatosmyaham. The act of bowing. The act of bowing is what? We are not doing a favor to the Guru, we are doing a favor to ourselves to let ego go off and let the self surrender to the knowledge, so that I allow myself to become the knowledge. Pranatosmyaham, I bow down to you. This is not a mere physical bow. The offering of ego, aham, to the truth. The surrender of individuality to the infinite. The first step on the path of liberation that started with this first sloka. Unless we are into that state, we cannot be able to comprehend the further slokas. In Vedanta, even in the Pariprashnas, the youth are wonderfully questioning. And even yesterday, I think, we talked about in Vedanta, an absolute truth perspective, surrender is not a defeat. It is a freedom from limitations that you are binding yourself. So this signifies that I am tired of being separate, suffering self. I now offer myself to you, oh, the absolute truth. The self of all, I am surrendering to you. I now offer myself to you. We need to understand these things in the current day trends that we have been, so that we will be able to apply in our life. We need to have a modern relevance, the present age relevance, especially for the youth who are going to be presently for this generation, who is the world and who is going to be the world to create for the world. We shall have an understanding. The modern relevance also, it is not that I am here to just talk about the knowledge. That is not understood and applied in our life while reconciling with the style of living that we are into. This is an age of spiritual consumerism. Look at everywhere. Where many collect teachings like books on the shelf, like YouTube saved videos, like Google pages searched, saved links. And now this verse reminds, the self is not an object of knowledge, it is the knower. We live in the mind. But this verse challenges now us to go beyond the mind, not in the books that are placed in the shelf. And to seek direct realization, to recognize the need of a guru not being someone who is to be dependent upon, a guru who is not just information. And now this verse tells us in this modern age style of living that it should humble us as the seekers. No matter how many scriptures you study, The ego and mind cannot reach that absolute truth. It is only in silence, it is only in surrender, it is only in self-inquiry that this experience happens. Let us look at our material perspective, the contrast of the spiritual perspective for us to know. What do we do in the material world? We always chase for the success. And this success, what we are trying to get out of this success or whatever that we have been trying to chase, we are accumulating everything. We are getting we are getting stimulated in everything. And we are looking for recognition. And the teachers here, we need to look at. When I say the teacher here, look at the knowledge there, that's all. And what is happening in the material perspective with the teachers? Many are becoming mentors for profit, or many are becoming mentors for skill. Spiritual seeking cannot become an institute for skill development. Altogether, that's a different thing that anyway that you are into, to have your skills developed for which you have been studying for years together, to get money after that. And be happy. Make sure that you are happy. So this verse presents radically different teacher is what I am trying to say here. The way that you need to perceive the master here, what 1200 years ago back, Shankar Bhagavad Pada, who perceived radically different teacher so as to become himself the embodiment of the knowledge. Thereby he has given the treasure for the generations to come to let themselves live to the objective of the life, which is the bliss. Let us remember that the Sat Guru does not give us more. All that he does is he removes what you are not, removing all accumulations and stimulations and recognitions. And he helps you to realize you are not your roles, you are not your emotions, or even you are not even your thoughts. In a world obsessed with doing and becoming, the Guru points you to being. And now, what should we understand? Very quickly, let us look at this verse. What is the teaching that Shankar Bhagavad is giving, and what does it really mean? The absolute truth or the Parabrahma is both knowable and unknowable, Gocharam and Agocharam. What does it mean? It is realized through the established Shastra Pramana, the Vedanta, but not grasped by the mind, which is Gocharam and Agocharam. And this verse tells us the Guru is essential, and a true Guru is not just a teacher, but a living embodiment of self. And this verse talked about self-realization begins with surrender by bowing down, which means that the ego must bow down before the truth. This verse tells us real bliss is not emotional. It is the still, unwavering, unmoving happiness of your true nature. Spiritual life is not accumulation, is what this verse is telling us. It is not a learning. Spiritual life is not an accumulation. It is unlearning, deconditioning, and letting go what we think we know everything. And now we move to the second sloka, which we call the second sloka. It talks about what is the glory of our existence. Jantunam narajanma durlabhamatah pumstvam tato viprata tasmad vaidika dharma marga parata vidvatvamasmat param Atmanatma vivechanam svanubhavo brahmatmana samsthitihi muktirno shatakoti janma sukritaihi muktirno shatakoti janma sukritaihi punyair vina labhyate. Let me read it again. Jantunam narajanma durlabhamatah pumstvam tato viprata tasmadvaidika dharma marga parata vidvatvamasmat param atmanatma vivechanam svanubhavo brahmatmana samsthitihi muktirno shatakoti janma sukritaihi punyair vina labhyate. Look at this verse. Don't get carried away with the apparent text here. Let us try to look at it, because this verse looks for the very normal human mind to be controversial, because it says that human birth is very tough, and even within human birth manhood is very tough. Then how about women? We need to. This is what Gocharam and Agocharam. Isn't it so? So let us try to understand this. Jantunam, among the living creatures, Narajanma, the human birth, Durlabham, which is very tough, which is very rare. Ataha, among that, Pumstvam, manhood, is very rare. Let's not get carried away with whatever the text that is appearing here. We may have a question, then what about women? Is there a discrimination? We will talk about it. And thereupon, tataha, viprata, the Brahminhood. Then what about Vaishyas and Kshatriyas? Because we are rooted in the caste-based system. We are rooted in the gender-based system. We need to comprehend all these things. And Brahminhood being the knowledge, the persuasion of the knowledge, the life that pursues, that is in pursuit of the knowledge. We'll talk about this. Tasmat. After that, Vaidika Dharma Marga Parata. Vaidika Dharma Marga Parata. A steadfastness, unwavering and steadfastness on the path of spirituality enjoined by the Vedic wisdom. Vidvattam. This is very crux of this verse. Correct knowledge of the scriptures. If we read scriptures, 10 people read scriptures and we ask all those 10 to comment. Everybody tells from their perspective, isn't it so? But it is important what is the correct knowledge. That is the very reason Vidvattam is the word that has been used by the Shankara Bhagavad-pada. The correct knowledge of the scriptures. Asmat, from this, Param, higher, which means that the higher knowledge, the higher state, Atmanatma Vivechanam. The next layer is Atmanatma Vivechanam. Even out of taking all these things, personal experience, as the Swanubhavam, but through Atmanatma Vivechanam, which is the discrimination of the real and unreal. Swanubhavaha, that has to be personally experienced, is finally what he is saying. Isn't it so? Brahmatmana samsthitihi, established in the identity with the absolute truth, which is referred as the Brahma here. Parabrahmasthiti. Muktehi, liberation. And here it says that Satajanma koti sukrutaihi punyaihi, merits of 100 crores of lives lived intelligently, vina, without, labhyate, gained, is what it means. So for all living creatures, a human birth is really rare. Much more difficult it is to attain a manhood, a full manhood. We'll talk about this. And rarer than this is a sattvic attitude in life. Even after gaining all these rare chances to have steadfastness on the spiritual path, as explained in the Vedantas or the Vedic literature, is yet rarer, much more so to have a correct understanding of the deep import of the scriptures. And discrimination between the real and the unreal, a personal realization of spiritual glory, and ultimately to get fully established in the living consciousness that the self in me is the self in all. These come only later on and finally culminates our liberation. This kind of a perfect liberation cannot be obtained without the meritorious deeds of many millions of well-lived lives. Should we feel discouraged? Oh, it's a long way for us to go. Let's do all the nonsense in this life. Is this verse teaching us to be so? It tells us how serious we need to be. This verse tells us that we cannot be casual, that we have always been into in our material life, not being able to get out of these sufferings or pains. Isn't it so? So it is very important that we need to look at this, that we cannot take things casually or easily when we are walking towards the truth. It's okay if you are casual in your workplace. It is okay you are casual in your kitchen. It's okay even in casual in your rituals. I should not say this. But remember that, finally whatever that you have been doing, everything casually in your life, remember that you are always unfulfilled and you cannot be casual to get out of this unfulfilled state. So for living creatures, it is in the beginning, we discussed even yesterday, Shankara Bhagavad is emphasizing the difficulty of awakening ourselves. Nobody needs to come to awaken ourselves, but to awaken ourselves to the real communion with the divine within us. In fact, there are innumerable specimens of living creatures in the universe, we know. And the truth is the substratum of all. And so, the real nature of all creation, even the inert and insentient. So look at a tree. Look at something that appears as if not having life as we live. The truth exhibits itself as existence, as something when it is manifesting. But now, those beings are, like a stone, for example, is not aware of it, but still it exists. So a little more evolved is some other life like insentient, like plants, which seems to be more aware of the world outside, and so the plant compared to the stone is a higher evolved specimen, for example, in the world of various types of beings. And when we come to animal life, we find that different species exhibit different degrees of awareness, not only of their external worlds of stimuli, but also of their emotions and feelings. So among all these things, the human seems to be the only living creature in the universe who is independent for his rational conquests, and is the sacred being which through intellectual convictions can gain a firm control over the emotions of the mind and apply this regulated and controlled energy for purposes of transcending psychological existence. And thereby, the human being can peep into the boundless realms of bliss and beauty and love and perfection. It is in this sense that the great rishis, great yogis considered the human as the supreme being. While in this modern day and age, man is considered great since he has developed technology and can build machines. If one were to follow this argument, the monkey world would fake it as a great insult when it hears a modern man declaring himself to be a descendant of the ape. So here Shankara Bhagavad is emphasizing that this Viveka Chudamani is meant only for the evolved human beings, because it explains and expounds a theory of spiritual perfection which can be understood, practiced, pursued and perfected only by the human beings of certain mental caliber and moral character. Such perfect ones who are ripe for a sudden and immediate spiritual self-development are always rare in this world, is what he is mentioning. Not only now, at any given period of the history of the human existence. So, Shankara Bhagavad tells us that to get a human birth is very rare. And having got a human birth, to have a masculine temperament, manhood, is rarer still, is what he is saying. It is very important that in this interpretation of this verse, a lot of miscomprehensions, they keep on creeping in. And some even glorify their misunderstanding on the scores of this Vaidika texts. Many pundits jump to a hasty conclusions and interpret this statement as a direct condemnation of women. You are not eligible for Vedic reading. Discriminating the woman. It is because it is a agochara. This Vedantic text has become agochara. It's not understood in the spirit. It's a thoughtless reading, mindless reading. And they say women are not considered fit for contemplation of self-realization as per Vedanta. How can Veda discriminate a woman? It is strange how such fantastic ideas gained by such kind of rishis who are into non-dual state, who experienced that absolute truth state, to declare that only a man, a gender-based man and a gender-based woman is not eligible, and only a gender-based man is. But then why Shankara Bhagavad has mentioned about this is what we need to understand. With the body, no sadhana can be undertaken, that which is declared in the Vedanta. The main practice in the Vedanta are reflection and meditation, which are to be undertaken by a healthy and highly effortful mind and a keen intellect. This is what is a manhood that is referred. So it means that feminine qualities of mind and intellect are to be removed when we are into the persuasion of this knowledge. A masculine inner personality full of courage, discrimination, a detachment, equilibrium, peace and cheer is the fittest instrument here for a quick walk ahead to the goal indicated by the Vedanta, is what we need to understand. So woman is the symbol of softness. When we say woman, not a body embodied woman. The nature of both the qualities exist in every gender. I have the masculine quality as well as the feminine quality. You have the masculine quality and feminine quality. What we call as the Jivatma and Paramatma, if we have to say. They both are integrated. They are not separate to each other. So when we look at in general that woman is the symbol of softness, attachment and sentiments, so she is essentially a mother. Wherever these qualities predominate, there we have a mother, a woman. So in this sense, there are many women among even bearded ones like me. and the firmness of determination, detachment and intellectual hardness and steadfastness. If they are not there, then it will be difficult for me, even I am a man here. So this verse refuses none that chance to study the scriptures and seek through Vedanta one's self-development simply because one happens to have a feminine body. No. It is the qualities of the feminine that which is making us to understand. Viprata again this is not a caste-based thing. Maybe in the beginning we'll be taking up only one or two, because as we profoundly understand the following, the subsequent verses become easier for us to understand, because we have already a strong base for us to understand the methodology of Shankara Bhagavadpada's knowledge. So Viprata, this again is a term, if you look at upon which the orthodoxy built upon absurd interpretations. That self-realization is available only for those who are caste-based Brahmanas. Brahmana here is the one who walks the path of the Brahma, the knowledge. It does not come by birth, it comes by your evolution, is what we need to understand. So, when we look at this sloka, Jantunam of all living beings, Narajanma, the human birth, Durlabham, difficult to obtain, which is very rare. And Ataha, therefore, because of that, Pumstvam, manhood, here not the male gender, it again, I reiterate, but human qualities of strength, discrimination and moral courage. Tataha, even from that, then, further, Viprata, being a Brahmana, not by birth, but symbolic of inner maturity, spiritual inclination, and sattvic disposition in the lifestyle. Tasmat, and from that even, then, Vaidika Dharma Marga Parata, inclination or devotion to the Vedic path of righteousness. Vidvatvam, the scholarship or the knowledge of the scriptures. That which is Gocharam and Agocharam. Asmat Param, beyond this. Atmanatma Vivechanam, discernment between the self and non-self. Svanubhavaha, personal direct experience. It is not something that I understand scriptures from my mind and I declare it to be my experience. That's a dangerous ignorance. It should be what? A personal direct experience. Brahmatmana samsthitihi, abidance in the identity of the Parabrahma Tattva and the self. Realizing that Aham Brahmasmi, the Yajurveda Mahavakya. Muktihi, the liberation, the final release from the bondage of ignorance. Not Shatajanma Koti Sukritaihi, even by virtues, deeds accumulated over hundreds and millions of births. Punyaihi vina, without that kind of a punyam or that virtue or without that merit, labhyate, this knowledge is not attained. Shankar Bhagavadpada here again very clearly mentioning that you cannot take this subject casually like how you have been living, though you think that you are seriously living but messing up the life. So among all living beings, human birth is rare. Rarer still is the true human character, the Pumstvam I am telling about. Even rarer is inner purity and spiritual potential. Here that is the Viprata. Still more rare is adherence to the path of Vedic Dharma. More rare still is the scriptural knowledge. Beyond that is the capacity of self and non-self discrimination. Greater still is direct personal experience of the self. Highest of all is abidance in the self as the absolute truth by yourself. So liberation is not attained without the merit accumulated over hundreds of millions of lifetimes of virtuous acts. We need to understand much more deeper now the ladder of evolution, from basic sentient life to the highest non-dual realization. Each step is rarer than the previous, that which is described by the Shankara Bhagavad. And each requires deeper and deeper purification and inner ripening every moment. Now, let us look at this Narajanma. There are 8 key progressive steps, what is mentioned here. Among countless species, only humans can engage in self-inquiry and deliberate spiritual pursuit. Human birth is considered a divine opportunity, rarest opportunity, a gateway to the liberation. But even most humans live as if they were animals, ruled by instinct, pleasures and fear. And now comes the Pumstvam, the real inner strength, which is rare. That which refers a true manhood or spiritual maturity, not a biological gender. And this includes Viveka, the discriminative capability, which is the Pumstvam, and the Dhriti, which is fortitude, and the Shraddha, the faith, and the courage to follow the righteousness. This is what is the manhood. And most human beings do not rise above automatic living and what we call as the egoic reactivity to this world. Where is the Pumstvam then? Then said, Viprata, the inner Brahmana quality. Brahmana means not by caste. Brahmana is the one who walks the path of the knowledge to attain that liberation or the absolute truth, or what is called as the Brahma. Sattva-guna, which means the calmness. Desire for knowledge and truth. This has to happen. Not a desire to have everything to be possessed. And a temperament inclined towards liberation. What is we call as the mumukshatva. It is the mental environment in which Vedantic inquiry can grow is what is the viprata. That is also rarest, which is mentioned by Shankara Bhagavad to let us become determined to improve on these qualities. And then he said, Vaidika Dharma Marga Parata, commitment to spiritual life. We just get dropped immediately. We do puja being religious towards the spiritual evolution. But Vaidika Dharma Marga Parata, commitment to spiritual life means that we cannot get dropped in between. It is not just rituals, but ethical and inward living, grounded in the Upanishadic vision. To sincerely walk the path of the righteousness, the dharma, avoiding both indulgence and escapism. And most people fluctuate between materiality and an ambiguous or vague religiosity, if we have to say. And then Bhagavad said, Vidvattam, the scriptural understanding. And even among those on this path, till now they reached up to Viprata. But few only can deeply study and understand the scriptures, the Shastras. Many get stuck in dogma or externalities. But true Vidvat implies insight into the Upanishads and Gita and Brahma Sutra, so on and so forth, with guidance. Yet this knowledge is still paroksha. He continues. Atmanatva vivechana, he continues. So this knowledge, even Vidvatvam, is the knowledge that which is still indirect. It is still not liberation, Shankara Bhagavad tells. And then he tells Atma Anatva vivechana, discrimination between self and non-self has to start. This is the turning point from you being the scholar, but to the true spirituality. Discrimination means clearly seeing I am not the body, mind, emotions or ego, but not just uttering about it. Discrimination means that I am the unchanging witness, pure awareness, the self, but not just uttering it out as words. This is the gateway now for the self-realization. Then Bhagavad said, Svanubhava, the direct personal experience, not just knowledge but realization. I am that Aham Brahmasmi. This is what we call as the Aparokshanubhuti. Aparoksha Jnana, self-knowledge through direct insight. Not concept or belief. This stage brings inner freedom, joy and equanimity that cannot be shaken. Brahmatmana samsthitaha. This is the highest state, not occasional experience that like any other worldly things. Like today I am happy, tomorrow I am lost. Again day after tomorrow I am happy, and then again later I am lost. Brahmatmana samsthitihi, the highest state, not an occasional experience, but unbroken abidance in that absolute awareness. The ego is fully dissolved here. The false self no longer arises. The world is seen as that absolute truth. The self is that Brahman. And oneness without a second. Idam sarvam pura srishti rekamevadi dvitiyam. Even you go beyond that creation where you are one without second. This is what is the Jivan Mukti. This is the liberation while living. And he said, we need to look at this verse. The final warning here we need to look at as not attained without immense merit is what he said. Mukti is not attained without merits. And without merits of not just this life, millions of lives. Let's not feel discouraged. It has to absolutely put us into more determination. Not just being casual. We came here, we talked something, and we started living the next hour as we wanted it to be, fancily. So this particular statement that Shankara Bhagavad mentioned as the final warning, that this liberation is not attained without merits or the virtues of millions of lives, that sincere effort is needed. Grace, purification and readiness, let us start that. Let's not think that this is not for me. I have done many sins. We are still abiding to the ignorance. Liberation is not a casual event is what we shall understand. It is the fruit of intense effort and deep maturity. Even heaven, fame, wealth or siddhis are very easier than this liberation is what we need to understand. And now let us look at the modern spiritual perspective and material perspective also. We shall have spiritual insights. This particular verse tells us that to value the path and not take anything for granted. Move from theory to practice and from intellect to direct realization. Recognize that liberation requires inner transformation, not just knowledge. And it shows us where we stand. Am I still pumstvam? Viprata, am I viprata? Or have I reached the viveka? The many steps that Shankara Bhagavad has given us. Let's keep on checking at each step where we stand and keep on evolving. And then it also inspires humility. We are part of a vast sacred journey, not ego. Now let us look at the material view. We need to reconcile this with the modern age living, the lifestyle that we are into which, so that we will be able to understand, comprehend where we need to improve upon. In this modern world, success is measured by education, income and influence. Self-knowledge is dismissed as esoteric or impractical. And this verse tells us very clearly, it says that even the most privileged life is meaningless if not used for self-realization. We can earn degrees, we can earn fortunes, But if I do not know who I am still bound and I am fragile to become painful any moment in this life, despite whatever the world considers me to be the greatest of the greatest human beings. And this particular verse brings a shift in the values that we need to start living. From achievement to awareness. From external security to the internal liberation. And let us summarize this verse now. Narajanma is the human birth. Pumstvam, the spiritual strength and discrimination. Viprata, the purity and orientation towards the truth. Vaidika dharma parata, the sincere following of the dharma. And Vidvatvam, the scriptural study and comprehending the very truth and the very spirit in it, not as it understood by the mind. Vivechana, the discrimination between self and non-self, and Svanubhava, direct realization, and Brahmatmana Samsthitihi, abidance in that truth, and Muktihi, this is the final liberation, is what we need to understand. Asato ma SathGamaya Tamaso ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityorma Amritham Gamaya Shanti Shanti Shanti. Shubham.
Namaste, Guruji.
Shubham Narayani. So, this broadcasting of the previous recording of the satsangs, it has been decided basically that because we have been into Diksha, Sabarimala Diksha, and then in continuation to Diksha, then leaving for USA, I'm looking at some kind of a we are still working on Saturdays and Sundays, on which we are very much into the divine sevas. So on weekdays, we are just looking at on which day we need to be able to, we can be able to do the satsang and everything. So meanwhile, we thought, as few have messaged that, they wanted to have some previous recordings of the satsang so that they can just recap the satsang and the Vivek Chudamani and even youth Pariprashna satsangs, heart to heart with the youth, that we are going to broadcast again the recordings on every Sunday, and Vivek Chudamani on every Saturday, and Monday, Wednesday, and Friday in the evening, the Telugu satsang of Bhagavad Gita is what at the moment we decided. So I thought just, at the end for few minutes, whenever possible, I just thought that, I'm on the screen to have darshan of all of you. So, and also to talk a little about what we have been doing. Today we did Vivek Chudamani. Is this the first satsang that we have started, Narayani?
Yes, Guruji.
Okay. So Vivek Chudamani, let us understand this. Vivek Chudamani, the crest jewel of discrimination, is not, if I have to say, is not just a philosophical book that is meant only for
scholars or monks. It is not something to be said that, hey, Vivek Chudamani is not for me. It is for some monks, few monks, or anybody who is a monk, or even some scholars maybe. It is not so. This is, if I have to say, Vivek Chudamani is a manual for inner freedom for everyone. And if I have to say, this is written by Shankara Bhagavad. This is written by Shankara Bhagavad, as you all know. And for whom? If I have to say, for everyone and anyone who sincerely seeks to understand, who sincerely asks, why do I suffer even when life seems successful? Tell me how many of us, despite being successful in the eyes of everyone, in our perception about ourselves, are we happy? Why do I suffer even when life seems successful? What is truly permanent in my life? Is there a way to live without fear, attachment, and inner conflict? Shankara Bhagavad in Vivek Chudamani addressed this core human problem. We mistake the impermanent for permanent. We mistake anitya to be nitya, and the non-self for the self. The anatma for the atma. So, the real problem of life, what Shankara Bhagavad has looked at as, in our day-to-day modern life, in this age of 21st century, what are we doing? We chase career, we chase money, we chase relationships, we chase recognition. We improved a lot on comforts, but no clarity. We control the outer world, but not the restless mind within ourselves. Despite all achievements, anxiety persists. Fear of loss remains. And satisfaction is always temporary, unsustained satisfaction. So Shankara Bhagavad said the problem here is not lack of success, but lack of discrimination. This is the need for the Vivek Chudamani. We do not clearly distinguish between what changes and what does not, what gives pleasure and what gives freedom. We do not clearly distinguish from what is experienced and who is the experiencer is. What is Viveka that Shankara Bhagavad has started telling us? It is not just intelligence. We are all intelligence, we know that. Do you ever consider yourself to be a non-intelligent? We all think that we know everything. Isn't it so? Viveka is not just intelligence. Because with all the intelligence that we think we have, that has never worked for us. We have always been unsettled. Viveka is not a bookish knowledge, or it is not intelligence quotient. It is the constant clarity, a constant clarity that gives you awareness that the body changes. It is anitya. Emotions fluctuate. Thoughts arise and fall like waves. And the roles that we are identified with, they keep coming and going. And the constant clarity of all these things happening is Viveka. And the Viveka here is finally, but the awareness of all this, it remains unchanged. So, we need to apply this Vivek Chudamani. It is not just that we listen, I talk, we listen and then go. We need to put this into the life application. Whenever anger arises, without Viveka, it feels that I am angry. When with Viveka, when I am into the discriminative capability, then you will understand that anger is appearing in me. It is not that you are angry. You can never be angry. You and angry are different. This small shift from I am angry to anger is appearing in me. This small shift creates a wonderful space in your life. This reduces identification. And this restores inner freedom. This is the practical Vedanta, not a theory. This is the practical Vedanta that we start living. Why Shankara Bhagavad began with the qualification, adhikara. You must have heard in the satsang, first satsang that we did few months ago almost. Shankara Bhagavad very boldly stated that liberation is not for everyone. Liberation is not for everyone. Shankara Bhagavad declared this in the beginning itself. It is only for those who are prepared, but not for those who are casual. Not because Vedanta is what we call, not just because Vedanta is for something, but it is because the Vedanta is something, but because a distracted mind cannot hold truth. Please understand. If we are distracted, our mind cannot hold the truth. It may think intelligently that I know everything. And remember, an attached mind always resists freedom. An untrained mind misuses the knowledge in the name of every reasoning that the intelligence throws upon. So, 4 life qualifications in the Vivek Chudamani that we need to apply. Viveka is clear seeing, absolute clear vision. And knowing what truly matters in life is Viveka. Then Vairagya, which is a mature detachment. I am talking about sadhana chatushtaya. Nitya nitya vastu viveka, iha mutra falabhoga viraga, shama dama uparati titiksha shraddha samadhana, ityadi shakka sampatti mumukshutva. And the Viveka is a clear vision, a clear seeing in terms of knowing what truly matters in life. And Vairagya, absolute mature detachment. It is using things without inner dependence. I repeat, using things without inner dependence. And then Shamadhi Shatka Sampatti, it's a mental discipline like calmness, self-restraint, self-control and endurance. How many of us have endurance? Then Mumukshutva, intense longing for freedom, not for pleasure, but for the truth. These are inner skills, not lifestyle changes. Many of us keep looking at when we are distressed, we are depressed. Lifestyle changes. What lifestyle changes? You need to have inner skills. And Vivek Chudamani is liberation. And liberation is not escaping life. Remember this. There is a common misunderstanding. Vedanta means renouncing family, renouncing work, renouncing society. Even elders keep saying, you are just 30, 35. Why do you need Vedanta? What do you mean? What do you understand about Vedanta? Shankara Bhagavad never says that. And he teaches renounce ignorance, not responsibility. Drop your false identity, not your relationship. Give up attachment, not your action, not your karma. This we need to put it in our life, apply in our life. You still work while being into Vedanta, but without ego obsession. Remember this. The problem is that we work all the time with ego obsession. You still love, but without fear of loss. You still act, but without inner bondage. This is Jivan Mukti, the freedom while in life. So, the Vivek Chudamani that we started rebroadcasting until we come back to the live satsang. The core message of this introduction in this session that we started today, Shankara Bhagavad is opening message can be, if you look at this, those who have been here for the satsang, let us remember, Jantunam Narajanma Durlabham, he said, human birth is rare. It is not easy. This is not, you did not take human birth with your intelligence. Like how we fight with everything to get something, but always we fail. Human birth is rare, understand. Right understanding is further rarer, Shankara Bhagavad said. And desire for liberation is rarest. So human birth is rare, right understanding is rarer, and desire for liberation is rarest. Okay, human birth is rare, we got it. Right understanding is rare. Okay, to some extent we have some right understanding, let us say so. But desire for liberation is rarest. How many of us have desire for liberation? We always want to become scholars, to be identified, to be acknowledged, to be validated, to be identified. So, if life is spent only in earning, enjoying, reacting, remember, then the greatest opportunity, you being a human being, is lost. Vivek Chudamani is a daily guide for us. It is not an easy thing for us to understand Vivek Chudamani. Like we talk about the glory of Bhagavad Gita, the glory of Lalita Sahasranama that we did, Saundari Lahari. Wonderful glory, no doubt about it. So, Vivek Chudamani, as a daily guide, we need to take it. Question yourselves daily. Is this thought helping freedom or bondage? If any thought comes in your mind, question yourself. Are you still getting bound, or are you getting into freedom mode? Are you responding from awareness or your habit? Question yourself, is this attachment giving a joy or a fear? Who is this I that is disturbed right now at this moment? These questions, they polish the Chudamani, the jewel of discrimination. So, the life-oriented essence is Vivek Chudamani. This teaches us, you are not here to become happy. Remember this. You are not here to become happy. You are here to recognize that you are already happy. Suffering continues not due to any destiny, but due to misidentification. So freedom here is not achieved in time, it is recognized in understanding. Remember this. So this is what we are going to do on every Saturday by what do we do? What do we call? By broadcasting the already, by playing the recordings of already held satsangs, because we are into the divine seva at this moment. Every day, almost every Saturday and Sunday more specifically. So I would tell most of you to take this opportunity too. If you find time, come and listen to this and apply in your life. Come and listen to this, not because I have delivered this satsang, but because it is the truth of our existence. With that, I conclude, and I keep coming in between whenever I find some time at the end of the satsang, at least for some time after my regular routines of the Diksha time here. Love you all. God bless. Shubham Swasti.
Gratitude, Guruji.
Shubham Narayan. Shubham.
Hey,
How
Guruji.
many of us we have? Let me put it in gallery mode. Yeah, Jema and Meena. Love you, Ma. God bless. And Reshav. Shubham, I'm with you, Ma. So you are in Mauritius? You're on mute, Ma. Reshav, you are on mute.
South Africa.
Oh, sorry. Yeah,
Yeah.
I just got confused. I mean, right. Anyway, you're in South Africa. And Shimla and Abhishek, love you, and Narayani, Bhanu Priya,
Namaste,
Bhargavi,
Guruji.
oh, Sujatamma, Shubhamma, and Sarala, and Radhika, and Manigaru, and Saroja, and Vaishnavi, and Vamsi. Love you all. God bless. We are all together always. And Shubham.
Namaste, Guruji.
Shubham, Amma, Shubham Dalli. Yeah, Shubham. Yeah. I'm signing off now. Please take care. Yeah, bye.
Yes, Guruji.